He started becoming abusive, as it was said. We were in Houston, and I was working at the clubs and doing whatever there. And then for the next 4 years, I just was trying to figure out how I was gonna lead life. 2012 was a eye opener for me. 2012, my best friend was shot 7 times in the face.
This is the INNOVAT Podcast, and my guest here is Alicia, and she's an amazing woman. She is a lived experience expert, and her story is very, very difficult, very challenging, and but she's overcome it, and she's just going to share openly. So just a trigger warning. It's not easy stuff to hear, but it's something we have to look at. We have to face. Thank you so much for joining me for the INNOVAT Podcast. I'm Ted Hahs. We've met already, and I'm the host of this podcast. And we talk about bringing greater innovation to the problems that are most important, how we treat one another. And Alicia is an expert in this area. You're a lived experience expert, and you have an incredible story, and you've turned a lot of trauma. And you were a victim, but you're no longer a victim. You are an overcomer, and you are a leader and an advocate. And so introduce yourself and tell them what's your position now.
So I'm Alicia, and I am a case manager at a reentry center. I work within a church. It's a ministry. I was hired there.
Maranatha Christian Center in San Jose. Amazing church, yeah.
I went through IT Biz and then graduated, and I got my apprenticeship.
The guard never fails. IT Biz.
Yeah.
And what?
I did an entrepreneurship pathway.
Okay.
And then, so my business that I created is actually almost the exact replica of what Maranatha Christian Center does with their reentry center, except they're focused on reentry, and I'm more to trafficking, victims.
So you do that business and you work for Maranatha?
I haven't started with the business yet.
So you went through the Love Never Fails IT Biz Academy.
Yeah.
How long was that course?
It was 12 weeks in the beginning, and then the pathway part was another 15 weeks.
So that's a total of 27 weeks, which is half a year. Yeah. And you came out with a plan and a whole thing to become an entrepreneur.
Yep.
And had a business plan. Yep. And then basically someone hired you to do what you had worked out to do. And you may still do that, but right now you're working with them, other entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I love it. Social entrepreneur. See, that's the term. That's the new sexy term. Social entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, cool.
That's awesome.
So tell us about your story, your backstory.
Well, I could say my life turned upside down at the age of 2. I was molested at babysitters, and that kind of triggered a
at age 2.
Yeah, it kind of triggered a rebellious spirit in me. Not only that, but it also made me hypersexual in ways that a 2-3-year-old shouldn't be. Fast forward a little bit through my years, I ended up.
Were you a single mom or?
So my parents had split that day. My mom dropped us off at a babysitter's and left us there, and my dad, it took him a while to figure out where she dropped us off. They had split, and she took off and left, and so I was left with my dad. It was just me and my brother. We were raised by my dad all my life. So she left, abandoned us, pretty much.
She abandoned you, and you were molested the day she abandoned.
Yes.
Had you been, was that the first time at that babysitter, or?
I believe that we had been there a couple times before, but my dad had never picked us up before. This was the first time that my dad actually came to pick us up.
Do you remember all this?
I do now, yeah. It took a lot of work. I've done some inner child work. I've done a lot of work to actually have it brought up. And also like kind of with what my dad said, how the scene was when he came to pick us up, in my older years, he finally explained. So, but I've done a lot of work surrounding that to actually be brought to that moment and actually see and understand what happened. So, and I went through a lot of therapy after that as well. But therapy started getting weird, or they wanted to do some kind of high.
You're talking about therapy at what age?
Oh, I was doing therapy at the age of 3. Yeah, because I was acting out in many different ways.
But the therapy wasn't helpful, it sounds like.
No, it really wasn't. And then they just deemed it as ADHD, and so put a pill in my mouth every day. And
Were you in the church?
oh yeah, so I was raised Seventh-day Adventist. My family is Seventh-day Adventist, so I was raised in the church. I would go to my grandma's house every weekend. I was raised at my dad worked his butt off to make sure we were very well taken care of. I don't never remember not having food. We had beautiful houses. We always, he always provided for us, but he did work a lot. So, and then, he also suffered from love sex addiction. Going through mother. He was currently just married to my 5th mother, who came in my life at 16, and they were married for 24 years. Yeah, but she went and came at the end of everything. So my second mom passed away. She had adopted my brother and I because my mother was no longer in the picture. And she adopted us. She passed away when I was 9, and that was kind of difficult. It was also like kind of the age that like I started to be a woman, and
What age is that?
at 9 years old. Yeah, that's when I like started getting, stuff up at the top and stuff happened down in the bottom, and I'm just like, what is going on? I don't have a mother. So I just started really just, I don't know. I feel like there was always a rebellious spirit. It was always acting out, always doing something that was, either causing attention or like class clown type stuff. At the age of 12, I lost my virginity willingly. Not, but like to a senior in high school. So, and then so my sexual addiction took off like real huge, like to the point where like in 7th grade I'd be walking home and senior boys would pick me up, and I just thought it was so cool and cute that my name was all over the locker rooms, like for a good time you can call, and I thought that was cool. My dad's 3rd wife, her 2 boys also were very sexual with me when I didn't want to. They were very mean and very, very, very scary to me and my brother.
And your dad's just,
Working.
just trying to survive as a single.
He was just working and, trying to find us a mother. And, these girls that he kept finding. 4th mother really was just trying to constantly send me away. I was about 8th grade, 9th grade year when she came around. Yeah, most of these marriages only lasted for like a year or so. So 4th marriage, she absolutely hated me. She despised me. She was jealous of me, and she was constantly trying to get me in trouble for something. I was probably smoking weed and maybe smoking cigarettes at the time, but not like anything crazy. And she was constantly trying to get me in trouble, and I would change my clothes on the way to school and wear makeup to school. I'm a freshman and I had really bad acne, so I only felt good about myself when I had makeup on. And so I just thought that that's, what would make me feel better and be liked by people. Once I started dressing like a girl, I was super tomboyish from like kindergarten till like probably 7th or 8th grade. And then like I went and stayed with a cousin, and she like put makeup on me and got me all dressed up, and like I got the attention from the boys. That's when it started. So fast forward a little bit, my mom, my 5th mother, came in to my life when I was 16. She had 4 boys. coming into the relationship with my dad, and she was a very, very Christian. Like they waited until marriage and everything like that. So it was
His mom number
5, which what would be my current mother, yes. So yeah,
so it took 5 times, but
5 times, but you got it right. Yes. And so
it's making me think of something. There's an organization called Foster the City. They started out there called Foster the Bay. Their premise is to, currently there's a wait list for homes for foster kids. Their vision is to change that and make it a wait list of homes wanting to adopt the foster kids. And particularly the way of doing this, they go to the faith community, churches. But their message is not who wants to be a foster kid. It's like, church, will you all become a foster church? And there's some people in here that will raise their hands, but if they do it alone, it's going to be extremely difficult. But if you all come around them, it takes a village to foster a kid, and they equip the whole church to support that family. It's like, and they get very positive outcomes because of it. Now, you weren't in foster care.
No.
But you had a single dad who's trying to make it work. Like, if we could be equipped, like I'm thinking, wow, if we could be equipped to help one another, just make better decisions and, just the bandwidth. I mean, I know raise kids myself with a wife, and we both get along great, and there are biological kids, and it's hard enough that way. Much less if you're on your own. Okay, wow. Okay, so back to you. You finally get mom 5, and she's a wonderful mother.
Yes, and I had just came home from boarding school. I went to Christian boarding school after my dad left my fourth mom for a little while because my dad could not deal with me. I was running away, sneaking out with boys, drinking, going to parties, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So my dad was like, I'm going to send you to this Christian boarding school.
Did that help?
Yeah. No, because I was sneaking in the farm and sneaking in the trees and sneaking in the bathrooms with the Christian boys. So yeah, no, then I was just turning them all into the little devil. I don't know. But yeah, it's horrible, right? But I mean, I look at it now and it was just me acting out because I never got told that was wrong, So fast forward, they got married. She was perfect because I was her first girl. She never had a girl before. So she spoiled me rotten, taking me to get my nails done, my hair done, massages. I mean, the works. I was, she had 4 boys coming into the marriage, and then she got me and my brother. So, and I was going through a troublesome time, always sneaking out. But then, she didn't know my tactics, and my dad did. And so she's like, oh, just let her stay out late. And then, it was before too long that,
Sir, master manipulator.
I was literally a master manipulator. And they didn't have cell phones then, so you couldn't track me. And I couldn't call you and tell you, hey, I'm going to be late. I couldn't tell you, and I couldn't do none of that. So I graduated. So junior and senior year, I came home. That's when they got married. And still, I was sneaking out, drinking heavily, super heavily, smoking weed, skipping classes my 11th grade year. 12th grade year, kind of buckled down a little bit because I was like, I have a dance. I was in dance and volleyball and tennis, and I was very good at it. But because I was Seventh-day Adventist, I was never actually able to play because most games were on Saturdays. So we rest on the Sabbath. I did come out pretty good on dance because I choreographed a lot of the things, and they gave me a dance scholarship anyways, even though I wasn't never able to actually do anything.
College on a dance scholarship.
I did go to college on a dance scholarship. So I started looking for college.
Elite athletes here.
Yeah. So I did try to go to, I applied to Walla Walla College. They have a good dance team there. They wanted me to come dance. But then my stepmom, Julie, she came from Boise, Idaho. So I had went out there with her and I ended up falling in love with one of her friend's sons. And probably a bad decision. But fell in love with him, pit pal with him my whole senior year, and then I just was set on going to Boise State. So I got in, went to Boise State, but I didn't want to dance. I wanted to go to school for nursing. So I just blew, that whole thing away. I got in classes and
You were burned out from dance, or?
no, I really wanted to go to school to be a nurse. Like I was like so focused and I didn't want to have to focus on dance to do all the other stuff. That's what I thought, I was living off campus at my mom's friend's house and I started going to classes. I'm super ADHD. It just was not for my type of learning. At a huge university, I'm in a class with 100 people. And you don't even know my name. You know my seat number. I'm not gonna be able to pay attention with that. I need more attention than that. And so I started slacking. I started hanging out with a boy that, I was in love with, and he was already addicted to meth. He started to introduce me to it, and I was like, sure, why not? Like, that rebellious spirit really came out because I was away at college, and, I'm calling my dad at parties. I'm like, what are you going to do? Take my birthday away? Like, I was still being super rebellious, but now I'm 3 states away. So you really can't do anything. I was only 17 when I started college. So the day before my 18th birthday, I went to go drop him off at school. We had been smoking all night. And the police walked up to my car because I was talking to the person next to us in a vehicle with my hands. And they thought we were doing a deal. The guy in the back seat actually had drugs on his lap. And so the school cop came up and he was like, hey, put your hands on the wheel. Anyways, we all went to jail that night. It was the day before my 18th birthday. And I was charged with frequenting. So I went to jail, but I got right out because I'd never been in trouble. Frequenting, being in a place where drugs are known to be located. They literally made that stuff up on the way to the jail. So they took me to juvenile because I was 17. They came at midnight, transferred me to county so that they could put it on my adult record. But I was released and put on juvenile probation as an adult. So I was on juvenile probation as an adult. Of course, I continued my nonsense on, drugs. I mean, it just escalated from there. I mean, I went like 30 days with no sleep. It was insane. And so me and him split up. Obviously, he ended up staying in jail. I met some other guy and I was living with him and his grandma. I was helping take care of his grandma.
Still going to college?
No, absolutely.
He dropped.
I only probably went for 1 semester, maybe. And I actually going to classes would probably not even half of the semester. So I was full on, on drugs. I was high all day, every day. So then I meet this other guy and I go to his house and he sells drugs. So of course, it's perfect for me because I want to stay high as possible. And, so I'm staying with him and his grandma. I'm kind of taking care of his grandma. His grandma's super sweet. And he's so abusive towards his grandma. Pretty soon he starts being very verbally abusive towards me. And like, I was very naive. I didn't, I thought that was love. I was like, oh, I just argue back with him and then we make love and it'd be okay, So I just kept on with it. Well, he went to go, to a place to one of the houses to collect, and he brought me with him because I'm like, I'm pretty muscly, and he's like, I could just put a to-do rag on you and you sit you in the car and you could be my muscle and driver. So I was sitting outside. I literally had my feet kicked up on the dashboard while I was waiting for him. I thought it was like I didn't know what he was doing. I wasn't like hardcore gangster yet. And so yeah, he goes in and then all of a sudden I hear gunshots. And so he's running back to the car and we're taking off and 2 of the tires were shot out. So we had to lay low for a little while. The newspaper posted, whatever, what did they call it? I don't know what how home invasion. They called it a home invasion. So they posted it, and I was freaking out because my key ring was left in the vehicle when we took off from the vehicle. And so I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna catch me. So we laid low, and then we took off and went to Reno. Reno's where he started getting very abusive with me. He was like, you got to make some money somehow. And I was like, I don't know how, but I did massages all the time. People love my massages. And so I would find people that wanted a massage or just talk with people and this and that. And you would make some money so that we could, stay in, So one day he was just so hurtful. And then like, he wasn't getting me high off the little money that I was bringing in. And I was just like so irritated. I walked to the store, and this guy was in there, and he was like, hey, how are you? He's like, you're beautiful. And I was like, and I had to talk to like that in a long time. And he's like, he's like, so I just started pouring it out. I was like, oh, my boyfriend's mean, and we're, in hiding, and like, I can't do nothing. And he wants me to do this, 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 and this. And I just can't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I could be that for him because he's so mean and hurtful. And he was like, well, why don't you come stay in my room? I got a room right here at this hotel. I was like, that's where we're staying. And so I went to his room. He was like, I'm going to Vegas. Just come with me. I was like, okay, perfect. So I went over to the room that the guy was in, and I packed my stuff, and I said, hey, this guy's going to pay me a lot of money. I'll be back in the morning. And I never came back. So I head to Vegas with the other guy. And as soon as we get there, he literally goes and gets the hotel room. And then we go, act like we're going to get something to eat, but he drops me off, which was at the top of the Blade. So I didn't know what it was. I didn't know nothing about that. I'm from Nebraska. I have no idea what.
the time?
I was 18 years old. Yeah. So I was just like, what is going on? I was like, I don't know what this stuff is. So he drops me off on the Blade. He's like, our hotel's down there 2 miles. He was like, don't come back without money, because I just paid all the money that I have for the hotel. And I'm thinking, okay. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. As soon as I get on the street, like, this guy pulls over. It's like, hey, I got $200. Da, 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 da. And I was like, $200 for that? I was like, I do that all the time for free. Why not? And so I jumped in the car with him, made my $200, and then I took off, and I literally had him drop me off like a block from the hotel, and just went right back to the hotel. And when I got inside, I excitedly handed the guy the $200. I was like, yes, he's gonna love me forever and all of this. And yeah, no, it didn't happen. He punched me in the nose, and I was like so surprised because I never had that before. Like, I've been tossed around and pushed, but I'd never been punched. And my nose started bleeding, and I was screaming. I was like, why did you do that? And he was like, you gotta be quiet. And I was like, you just punched me. And he was like, I'm getting rid of you. He's like, you only got $200 back. He's like, there's a whole street. He's like, you just hit one lick and came back to me, didn't you? And I'm like, I thought you would be excited about the $200, like, And so I was totally, I didn't know what I was doing, but I threw a big enough fit, causing a huge scene, that he put me in his car and took me to Greyhound bus station. Dropped me off at the Greyhound bus station, threw my bags out, and I'm already crying, and he's like, get lost, and you'll never do anything in life, and all these horrible things that he was telling me. And so I go inside, I call my parents, and I had been on drugs for about a year at this point, and my bridge was burnt with them at that moment. They also didn't quite understand the seriousness of it. I was like, these people are trying to hurt me. I have nowhere to go. And my dad was like, you got yourself into it, you get yourself out. And even though that was like a strength for me, but at that moment, I needed that, help. But I was just sitting in the corner on my luggage and crying, and this girl came up to me and she was so beautiful, so beautiful. And she says, "Hey," she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, no." I was like, "This guy just punched me and sent me over here, and my parents won't answer." I'm just vomiting everything to her. And she's like, "Well, what? You could come with me." And she's like, I've got an apartment right up the street." And I was like, "For real? Okay." And I got all my stuff and I went out there. As soon as we get to the truck, there's a guy in the front seat and a kid in the back seat. And, they seemed very nice at first, but then when we get to the house, there's like 4 girls there and they're all getting dressed and ready. So he automatically tells her to tell me where I could put my stuff. And then he says, "Go take her shopping." And so I'm like, "What? Shopping? Okay." I'm excited about this. So she takes me and she takes me and get dressed. Under up. I've never been dressed like that before. Ever. And I was like so excited. And she did my makeup and did my hair and we got all cute. We dropped the 3 black girls off onto the Blade, and me and her went to the casino. So from there, she taught me everything that I needed to know. She literally ran all the game down to me. She had been in the game for quite a few years, like 10 years. And she was like a super pro. Like this girl was making 10 bands every night, literally. And so she showed me how to lure men in the casino. So I learned very well. And we made a good team together and made even more money. And I remember like the first night that I went with her, I probably made like $6,000. And I was praised when I got back. And he was like, "Man," he's like, "You're amazing." He's like, "You're going to do great."
So what? I'm just curious of the economics. What portion of that $6,000 do you keep?
Oh, no, I didn't get to keep any of that. I got front money every night though. So front money is just like drink money to start the night off. So you get a little bit of money, like maybe $25, $50 every beginning of your day. So it was like a routine, and then if we didn't make any money, we had to go on the Blade, just like the other girls, and make up for it. And really our limit, our minimum had to be like about $5,000. If we didn't make $5,000, then we either had to go to a day shift at a strip club or we had to go on the Blade all night. So we really didn't have a hard time making that in the casino. It really wasn't very often that I ever had to go to the Blade. Not at all. I never was that girl. So anyways, so Mardi Gras was coming up. And so he's like, "Well, we're all going to Mardi Gras. That's where the money's at. All the traffickers in the world go to Mardi Gras. They take their girls. That's the same." So we were driving from Vegas to Mardi Gras. We had 3 girls and then me and the main girl. And so yeah, that's what we did. We drove all the way to New Orleans, but we stopped at every city along the way. And the black girls will go on the Blade, and I'm not white, I'm Native American, but the girls that looked as close to white as possible would stay in the hotel and work off of Backpage. It was popular at the time. So we would get calls all night.
What's your mentality at this time? You're making $5,000 a night, and you're not seeing any of it.
Yeah, but I was very well taken care of. Very well taken care of. Very well taken care of.
You're just in the...
Yeah, I was very well taken care of because I wasn't as top as she might have been, but I was making money. I was making it work. So yeah, my mentality was just, I just automatically went into that hustler mentality, and I was just like, he's taking care of me. There hadn't been no issues. He would sneak and try to sleep with me outside of her, but they had a relationship and a child together. So it was like, I was just there, and I don't know. I just felt comfortable at first. And then there were the times where I actually had to go out on the blade to make money, and I would come back with like $200, and then he would start hitting me. And I know he broke my nose one night and gave me a black eye, and she's doing my makeup up and fixing it. And so we get to New Orleans, and me and her go to the strip clubs, and then I learned the strip club because I had been to some, but not like any big time ones. So we went to the big time strip clubs. So there I'm learning how to do, how to work the floor, how to dance and do table drape dances or VIP session.
How long did that go on for then?
Oh, for the dancing?
No, I'm saying.
Oh, with him? So after Party Guard was over, it was like 2 weeks. He left to go back to Vegas. He also took some minor girls with him to go back to Vegas. He was gonna go put stuff in storage shed because we were making a lot of money in New Orleans. So, anyways, he basically was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go to back to Vegas, and I'll be back." And it left me with his girl. She ain't going nowhere. She's got a kid with him. That's what his thought was. But she had a plan. Well, he ended up going to jail. He got pulled over, and they realized that he had minor girls in the car, and he went to jail. And I don't know if he ever got out. But me and her broke free. We ended up, I think, both of us started dating football players, and we separated because I went to go live with him and she went to go live with hers. I ended up breaking up with mine because I wanted to go to the strip club. I wanted to go work. I wanted to go do some drugs. And he wasn't having that. He didn't want me to have that lifestyle. So I was like, no, I needed to get to the drugs. That was what it was for.
So you're addicted this whole time?
Yeah, I was addicted. Oh, yeah, for sure. So for me, it was just really just getting to the drugs. And the drugs were in the strip clubs. The strip clubs had money, and then that's what happened. So I was working on my own for a little while. I was staying in a hotel, just doing my own thing, working every night, making bank and killing it. And I was one of the top dancers. I was the star of the show. I started the night off every night. It was superstar. Everybody was like, most of the girls would like, I did not want to go on stage after Sapphire was my dancing. I did not want to go on stage after Sapphire if she's doing coke tonight, because I would go in the bathroom and literally do a line from one end of the toilet to the other and then go on stage and just wow the crowd. So I was one of the top performers, and I didn't take nothing from nobody. You couldn't even touch me for less than $1,000. I was probably 19, 20 years old at this time. So I ended up meeting this guy. His mom worked at the hotel, and she introduced me to him. He was standing outside of the hotel one day, and she was like, I was like, who is that? And she was like, that's my son. And she told him, don't mess with that girl. Stay away from that girl. And, but we ended up sneaking together, and, I went down to pay for my room one day, and I had his jersey on. She was like, she called the room and was like, boy, get out that girl's room. But we ended up being together. We were actually together for 6 years. He had a 5-month-old little girl, and she is still my little baby girl today. She's 21 years old now. But we were together for 6 years. 4 of those years, I was literally trying to figure out how I was going to lead a life. The first 2 years was awesome. We were hustling. We were making money. We were doing everything. He was coming to get my money. He would come pick up the money, but he was my man. Like, he was my man. He took good care of me. I made a lot of money. He made a lot of money. We were doing it together. And so we ended up buying a house at $100,000 cash. And we picked a house out together. Well, not even 6 months later, Katrina hit. So I left, went to Brookhaven, Mississippi to get away from the storm, ended up in Texas.
So you were in New Orleans.
I was in New Orleans. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I stayed in New Orleans. I never left. I stayed there from the moment that he ended up going to jail. I just stayed and made my life there for the next maybe 20 years. So, yeah, I didn't leave there until I was probably like 28, 29. So, yeah, I was there for quite a while.
So 10 years.
No, I mean, I left in 2014. That's when I left. So, and I got there in 2004. That's fun. So yeah, it was about 10 years. So yeah, but yeah, so from there, he started becoming abusive, as it was said. We were in Houston and I was working the clubs and doing whatever there. Um, he became very abusive, with guns, everything. He held a gun to his daughter's head and said, "What, you think I won't shoot her to get to you?" Yeah, it was a lot. I'm not even gonna go into all of that, you know what I'm saying, that he did, because like it was a lot of torment that I went through. And then
So it started out good, but it just...
yeah, it started out great. Oh yeah, for about 1 or 2 years. And then for the next 4 years, I just was trying to figure out how I was gonna lead a life. That's all I wanted to know, was how do I leave this man alive? And he literally would make me think that I wasn't gonna leave alive.
Oh, wow.
So,
But you did leave alive. You're alive now.
I did leave alive. In fact, I left alive, and I never chased me. You know, he stalked me for a little bit when I did leave him. So he ended up doing some crazy stuff, and I tried to cover it up for him, and I do some other gangster stuff that we won't talk about on this show, but basically we went on the run also. So we end up in Portland, Oregon, and I'm working at a lingerie store, which is basically a peep show. Okay, so the guys come in and, you know, they pick all the girls go out and they pick what girl they want, and then they pick what room they want to go to. There's different playrooms. So that's what I was doing for quite a while. I believe from probably 21 to about 24, 25. And you know, I was getting into all kinds of stuff, dom, all kinds of, any level of that industry. I've done it. There's nothing I haven't seen, heard, done, been asked, any of that. It's all very, very thick, and it was for a very long time.
So how'd you get out of it?
So, I mean, many years later, so we're gonna fast forward, few more abusive relationships. In between that, you know, I just wanted to work the lifestyle. I was addicted. I was constantly using, constantly doing whatever I could to make the money I could to suffice my habit. So even if I got a good boyfriend in that time, like I was gonna give him my money so that he would be okay with me working. And that it just became an addiction and a super habit after I was initially entered into it. So fast forward to 2012. 2012 was a eye opener for me. 2012, my best friend was shot 7 times in the face. I lost my best friend, and that moment changed my life because I went with her mom to identify her body, and we had to do it by her tattoos. So that moment, it sunk for me. I was like, I do not want my dad to have to identify me by my body. And the way I was living at that moment, I mean, robbing people, doing tremendously amount of things that shouldn't be done, I was going to end up in that lifestyle. And I was high when I was doing it. I don't even remember what I was doing in the nighttime. It was just a lot going on. I was doing way, way, way too much to support a habit or a man. And so I started to think about my life. So I started to kind of revert. I didn't revert all the way yet because I still had addiction. I started school for medical assistant. Thought that was cool, but then I would go work at the strip club at night, you know, practicing my spelling words at the end of my vocabulary, my spelling words, my vocabulary words at the end of the bar while I was waiting for, I was working at a red light club. So it was like, as the people would come in. So yeah, I thought I was, changing my life there. So fast forward to that, I ended up with this very abusive trafficker. He was a rapper. I had a rap lifestyle going on. So I dropped out of school. Everything was going good there. He had just got out of jail. He knew my best friend. So I felt close to her by being with him, but he was clearly her trafficker at one point. So I felt close to him. He started having me run his girls because I was so, professional and so well-rounded and very, yeah, I knew what I was doing. And so he brought girls to me to train them, basically. So I started training them and running them because he was in the rap game. So he's at the rap studio. I'm running his girls. I'm also finding him talent in the mid that, are trying to holler at me and this and that. And yeah, I'm just living a very, very upscale lifestyle, but very addicted. And he was bringing me boo-goo drugs. I mean, I'm talking about ounces and ounces of whatever I wanted to sell, but it was really everything that I wanted to do. There was a point where I was doing 5 different drugs in it.
So you're selling and...
Yeah, I was selling and working in the club and selling the girls and making sure they made money.
So the first attempt to get out didn't last so long.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But
You've been future attempts.
yeah, the next scary thing did get me out for a while. So I was walking, it was Mardi Gras again, 2013. And I was walking with 3 streetwalkers. They were regular hustlers on the streets. I knew them. They had different traffickers. The rapper guy was still around, but like I really wasn't like focused on him. I was focused on whatever I had going on. He still, was around, but he was still down for me. That's for sure. He was still down for me, like literally. But so I started walking with the girls. We were walking on Bourbon, trying to catch a lick, as we would say. And all of a sudden, we turned down a side street and it went black. All my face was covered. It got very dark and very scary real quick. I heard a door open and then we were thrown into the back of what I think was either a delivery truck or a U-Haul truck, something that has like a sliding door, because that's what I heard. We had, I don't know what it was, a bag, some kind of bag or something was put over our heads, and we were thrown in the back of the truck and they wrapped us with rope. We were transported. We were taken someplace. When we woke up, they must have drugged us. When we woke up, we were in like a concrete basement, like cracks in the walls, like water was running out of the cracks. There was boarded up windows, chains around the neck area, along the walls. There was like 5 of them. So we were down in the basement. I was there for probably about 3 or 4 days. I don't remember. I don't know exactly how long it was, but it felt like 3 or 4 days. So when we were put in the truck, I quickly took my Nokia phone. Nokia was cool back then. And I slid it up. And that's where it stayed. And so throughout the next 3 or 4 days, they would come in every hour on the hour. There was a complete routine. I learned the routine to a T. There would always be a guy by the door. There would be 2 that came down. All 3 would come in. Every hour on the hour, they would come down. They would force us to do oral. They would put a gun to our heads. I'm talking about army guns, not just a pistol. And if we didn't, then they would kick. This one girl kept kicking and biting and screaming and fighting back. And one day they just killed her right there, right next to me on the wall. Wow. And so after that happened, I just literally when they would leave, they would throw cans down at us to, we'd have to bust it open in something to be able to eat. I was super dope sick at this point because I was on heroin, and they drugged us in the beginning, but then never gave us anything after that. So I was super, super, super sick, but I was just begging God. I literally was praying, I was raised in the church. I know God. My grandma's instilled God's promises in me. And I always had those moments where I would pray. And I would just be like, Lord, help me out of this situation. And so I prayed, and pretty soon there was one time when the guys came down. When they went back up, their normal routine didn't happen. I heard all 3 footsteps go up, and that door did not lock. And then I heard the van drive off. And then all of a sudden I heard go in my ear, like literally clear as day. I looked at the girls. I was like, I'm leaving. And I was like, door's not locked. And they said, I took off running. I ran. I ended up jumping in a bush because I got freaked out. I didn't know where I was. I couldn't tell where I was at yet. And I jumped in a bush. It was like one of those huge cotton bushes. And I just stayed there. I literally watched the sun go up and come down at least once. And finally pulled the Nokia out, and the battery was dead, but it turned on. Just that little bit of juice was enough to call someone. I called the rapper guy, and I told him what my surroundings looked like. He knew exactly where I was. He came and picked me up with like 4 Escalades full of guys with guns. He came and picked me up. That's how well respected I was. Like they were coming for me. They came and picked me up and took me to a safe house. I stayed there and got a hold of my grandma. He got me some Suboxone so that I could detox before I went out to my family. My grandma bought me a ticket, and I went home to my family. So I got out of the game at that point.
It sounds like it was pretty rock bottom, man.
Yeah, I was pretty rock bottom. Yeah.
Did you stay out that first time?
Oh, of course not.
How many more times did it?
It was a couple more.
So you didn't stay out, but how?
So fast forward,
you got out.
20. So I ended up back in not too long after that, but not as deep. I was just doing it on my own. I was online. I was just staying in a hotel and doing that. Really just to suffice, because I got back into my addiction. 2015, I got out completely. I went to school for massage therapy. I did 7 years of massage therapy. I graduated top of my class. I was the #1 therapist at Massage Envy, Massage Heights for years. My instructor actually hired me at her place while I was still in the school because I was so good. She was like, I want you when you graduate. So
2015 was when you really forget it.
Yes. Not forget. There was one more chance. But for 7 years, I got out. Yeah. Okay. I did real good. Stayed sober 7 years. And then I was working in Nebraska at a salon, and my grandfather passed. And I had already started to slip into the behaviors of using, but not all the way. And then my grandpa passed. I went into a psychosis and ended up burning the house down. And then I ran off because my family didn't want nothing to do with me. And I ended up in a hotel where I had to start taking care of myself. My hands were burned. I couldn't do massage therapy where I was. I was way in Atlanta. So I ended up back online. This time it was on Mega Personals because Backpage got shut down. So yeah, I just ended up back in that. Fast forward 2022, I got pregnant the beginning of the year. He left me. I lost the baby, and he didn't want to have nothing to do with me. I lost the baby. I had a stillborn. He was born. He lost his heartbeat an hour before he was born. So I was crushed. I was broken. I was everything I done had. There's too many extracurricular activities going on that I am on nothing to do with. So I called Crisis Line, and they connected me with Love Never Fails.
Wow. Love Never Fails was
And Love Never Fails is the transformative man. I tell you,
layer after layer.
layer after layer after layer. Yeah, I had done some in 2020. I went to a childhood trauma place, and that started it, but it didn't give me time to process it. Love Never Fails any time to process all the trauma. I wrote a book. It will be published the end of March, of my whole story.
You're healed, being healed.
Yeah,
You're being healed, and you're an example of
for sure.
overcomer.
And now I'm helping people reach their goals and get to where they need to be in life, because
Very powerful.
I can do what they can do.
Well, thank you for sharing. And you're a hero. You're an overcomer. And I love how you've overcome this adversity and you're helping others. So good work. Thank you
Perfect.
for sharing with me.
Thank you.
So this horrible beast of human trafficking and what it is, if we're going to create a world that's better. And you inspire me at how you've gone through all this and overcome it, and now you're helping others.
Thank you.